guy, and the World Cup is over. That was quick. Now we just sound like Fogdad's wife. But today, I'm going to take a look at every Premier League club and find each team's player who had the worst World Cup. None is probably returning to their club looking like a miserable goblin. Ozzy, when the club representative has to pick them up from the airport, the player probably looks like someone who's just been told to share a bed with their nan. Right, let's go. Arsenal Thomas Partey. Okay, let's be honest. Ben White has probably had the most miserable World Cup this month. I mean, the guy has been forced to fly home from Qatar, and the media were unhelpfully trying to pretend that's because he had a fight with the assistant coach, and didn't have anything in common with the other players. What? Just because he's a bit different to everyone else? I'm sorry. It's a World Cup. I don't care if White reads Egyptian spy novels while sprinkling armpit hair over his Cocoa Pops. He's not leaving the tournament just because he doesn't fit in. But no, Thomas Partey was pretty poor. Come on, the guy is having a brilliant season in Arsenal's midfield, but he wasn't much of a midfield colossus in the group. I mean, I'm sure he wanted to be Ghana's version of a modern day Michael Essien, but it was more like watching Michael McIntyre. Just painful to watch. Yeah, he played 3 games. Ghana conceded 8 times. Partey kept giving the ball away. Honestly, he was sloppier than Danny DeVito eating porridge in the back of a moving taxi. Oh, Tommy P, no! Aston Villa Matty Cash. Okay, there weren't a lot of Aston Villa players at the World Cup, but honestly, for Steven Gerrard, that's pretty damning of his work. And as like a high school teacher who realizes that none of our previous students went on to get jobs, yeah, maybe we could actually set them some actual homework instead of just making them watch Desperate Housewives. But listen, Matty Cash was out there in Qatar, and honestly, he was just living Fogden's life. Honestly, he looked like he was out there just to collect shirts and beg Ronaldinho for a selfie. He was Poland's Ellis Platten. He played 2 group games, one of which was a cumbersome win over Saudi Arabia, where he was booked after 16 minutes, and so for the rest of the game, it was like watching Seth Rogen walking on a tight rope, or watching your grandma in the middle of an ice skating rink. Honestly, Cash had to be safe. So yeah, he wasn't able to come out of his shell, and that was pretty anonymous in the defeat to Argentina, where he was probably just making love eyes at Messi old match. And then in the last 16, yeah, got booked again against France, and oh yeah, the guy he was supposed to be man marking scored twice. But it's alright, because instead of apologizing to the Polish fans, he just begged Mbappe for his sweaty shirt to, I don't know, frame above his fridge, use it as a bath towel, sell it to some fat lad in Malta on eBay. Bournemouth Chris Mepham. Take your pick. Who had a worse tournament for Wales? Chris Mepham or Kiefer Moore? I mean, both Bournemouth boyos were about as impactful as shredded broccoli, but I'll go with Mepham. I mean, he's supposed to be a rock-solid, experienced defender, but this fella, a former Chelsea centre-half, let's not forget, in the academy anyway, yeah, he was pretty awful in the group stage for Wales, like every other squad member, so yeah, just a real ugly outing. Brentford Mikkel Damsgaard. Again, not much to choose from here with Brentford, but yeah, Brian Mbemo did okay for Cameroon on the wing, so I'll have to pick Mikkel Damsgaard. An absolute midfield revelation for Denmark at the Euros last summer, but here, this was horrible. He played the second half on the left wing against Tunisia in the opening day 0-0 draw, where he showed the creativity and adventure of a sneezing lizard. Then he played 73 minutes in a pretty spirited 1-goal defeat to France, sure, but then he was dropped for the final crunch game against Australia, a game they needed to win, and he played the last half hour in a 1-0 defeat. I don't want to pick on Damsgaard because all of Denmark's attacking players looked about as dangerous as the cast of Teletubbies, but still, for a supposed 22-year-old Maverick superstar, oh, this was pretty poor. Brighton, Leandro Trossard. Lad, there were so many Brighton players at the World Cup. 8 in total. That is mental. And one of them reached the World Cup final. Yes, Brighton at home for Albion. What is going on? But the worst one was probably Leandro Trossard. Trossard came into this tournament as one of the most informed wingers in the world. Yeah, he played half an hour for Belgium in a stale 1-0 win over Canada. Didn't do much. Played 16 minutes in the loss to Morocco, and then finally, Roberto Martinez picks him to start the crunch class against Croatia, a game they had to win. I mean, in Trossard's head, he probably dreamed about scoring the winning goal and becoming a national hero. Instead, it was like watching Finding Nemo in a pair of football boots. He didn't do much and was subbed off for Torgan Hazard on 59 minutes. Just really poor. Chelsea, Edouard Mendy. Okay, well I know who had the best tournament at Stamford Bridge. Honestly, Hakim Ziyech is going to walk back into Chelsea with the ego of Floyd Mayweather, especially considering that some of his Chelsea teammates utterly stunk up Qatar like a bag of elephant poo. Listen, Kai Havertz was dangerously close to being the worst one after he was utterly rotten for Germany against Japan. He didn't play against Spain or start against Costa Rica, but I mean, he did still score twice in the last match. And that's 2 goals in just 102 World Cup minutes. That is not terrible. So I'm gonna go for Edouard Mendy. In goal for Senegal. I mean, he was blamed for both the goals they conceded against the Dutch. Was pretty poor against England in the last 16. I mean, to put it in context, there's a guy who at a club level is currently behind the fella who's what? 6th choice goalkeeper for Spain. So, are we really that surprised? Crystal Palace, Jordon Ayew. Poor, really poor. This was an embarrassing tournament for Jordon Ayew. Lads, this guy who spent his entire career trying to step out of his brother's shadow. He's just Ghana's answer to Deji. I mean, Anthony Ayew is literally a washed up beanbag playing in the Qatar Stars League, and yet he was still picked to start over his Premier League brother against Portugal. I mean, sure, Jordan then started in the win over South Korea, but for their crunch clash with Uruguay, I mean, his brother missed a penalty, and yet both the Ayew brothers were dragged off at half time. I mean, I might understand the manager being annoyed with Andre, but taking off his little brother too? Oh, Jordan, this is a pretty revolting tournament for the guy. Everton, Jordan Pickford. Okay, this is harsh, and maybe I should have said pick on Belgium's Amadou Onana, who admittedly had all the impact of a sponge, but I think everyone is overlooking that Jordan Pickford had a painfully average tournament. I mean, Danny Ward has gotten a lot of stick for Wales after conceding 2 goals against Iran, and yeah, guess what? So did Pickford. Iran had 3 shots on target, 2 went in. Sure, he picked up a clean sheet against the USA, Wales and Senegal, but I mean, those 3 teams had a combined 3 shots on target. Honestly, you could have gone down your local Tesco, grabbed any one of those creepy old man posing as Santa Claus, thrown him between England goalposts, and they'd have probably kept 3 clean sheets too. I mean, it's against France, where Pickford let everyone down. Everyone, from Fabio Capello to even Ben Foster, said he should have saved Aurelien Tchouameni's shot from outside the box. Honestly, Pickford, when he was diving for that shot, it just really underlined that his little arms looked like something he should stick on Mr. Potato Head. He was poor against France. Sure, he made a good save from Olivier Giroud, but other than that, he wasn't good. According to the media, this guy's apparently going to replace Hugo Lloris at Tottenham. Yeah, considering Lloris was down the opposite end of the pitch, with a bird's eye view of Pickford diving for Tchouameni's shot, like he was in a slow motion Die Hard film. Yeah, I think Hugo knows his Tottenham job is safe. Fulham Harry Wilson. Oh, Harry Wilson, what has happened to your career? 2 years ago, we were hearing Liverpool fans wanting to keep this dead ball specialist at the club, right? Just because they liked his Bournemouth free kicks on Match of the Day. Well, here, this Fulham playmaker goes to the World Cup with Wales, and he was dreadful. He was just a lightweight crisp packet against USA and Iran, was then dropped for the match with England. I mean, this guy is not a promising kid anymore. Now, he turns 26 in March. This guy is nearly in his 30s. He's been a Wales regular for nearly a decade, but what's he ever really done? Honestly, take away his free kicks and what is left. He's a decent championship star, yes, but in elite level football, he's just Casper the Friendly Ghost. Leeds, Brendan Aronson. Okay, well, let's get it straight. Tyler Adams for the USA was absolutely incredible in midfield and a contender for team of the group stage, but Brendan Aronson, this was not his tournament. As an ambitious playmaker who absolutely tortured Chelsea under the bright lights of the Premier League in August, surely he must have thought he'd be a certain starter for the USA. Now, it's just 20-minute cameos nearly every match, just thrown on in the second half where he didn't really do much. Leicester, Danny Ward. I feel bad for Danny Ward. Second choice goalkeepers go to the World Cup and enjoy the most relaxing month of their lives, and clearly they're only there just to sit on the bench. I mean, there's no pressure, nothing. Christ, the likes of Aaron Ramsdale could have probably spent the last month just eating muffins in his bedroom, ordering KFC for lunch and playing Dungeons and Dragons until 4 AM, and Southgate wouldn't really have cared. But Ward, he went to the World Cup with Wales and was told he was second choice to Wayne Hennessy. Okay, bit embarrassing that for someone who regularly starts for a Premier League winning club, and he can't even get past a 35-year-old who spent the last 4 years rotting on the bench for Crystal Palace, Burnley and Nottingham Forest. Yeah, that's humiliating, but still, okay, fine. Ward could just, I don't know, spend a month sunbathing by the pool and playing mini golf, right? Have a stress-free life. No, couldn't even do that. Hennessy gets stupidly sent off in the second match, and Ward is thrown into the deep end. Lads, he came onto the pitch in the 87th minute against Iran. Wales are literally minutes away from a clean sheet, and he concedes twice. And then in their most winning game against England, he concedes 3 times. Neither of Marcus Rashford's goals should have gone in, especially not the second one, which hit off Ward's legs as if they were just blunt traffic cones. Liverpool, Darwin Nunez. Nobody is acknowledging this, but Darwin Nunez had a horror World Cup. This is a guy who is in form for Liverpool. He's coming to this World Cup scoring goals and making James Alcott look about as sensible as undercooked banana bread. But the £70 million striker draws a blank for Uruguay in their stale 0-0 draw with South Korea. He doesn't do much in the 2-0 loss to Portugal, and then in their most winning game against Ghana, lads, he chose to infuriate everyone by scuffing up the penalty spot when Ghana got a penalty. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if Luis Suarez had done that instead? I actually think the Ghana fans might have set fire to his car, but the most telling thing of all was that Uruguay were 2-0 up against Ghana, and they were chasing a third goal to go through, and Nunez gets subbed off. Oh, honestly, when Nunez' number went up, he must have been so embarrassed. I feel like when your grandma picks you up from school whilst wearing a pig onesie. Man City, Kevin De Bruyne. Man City had a couple of stinkers at the World Cup. I mean, whisper quietly, but Manuel Akanji was part of a Swiss defence which conceded 10. But I'm gonna go with Kevin De Bruyne. We know he had a dreadful World Cup for Belgium. The worst international tournament showing of his life. I mean, he played the full 90 minutes in all 3 group games. I mean, this is supposed to be one of the most creative footballers on the planet, right? Well, Belgium scored 1 goal against Canada. That's it. I mean, without his luxury Manchester City toys, De Bruyne, honestly, he just looked like if you made one of the Kardashians live in a caravan in Sudan without access to makeup for a month. Yeah, they'd probably all look like Neville Longbottom. And yeah, De Bruyne, just a horribly forgettable tournament. Man United, Christian Eriksen. I would have assumed after he was robbed of Euro 2020 that Christian Eriksen would be a midfield man with a vengeance for Denmark this time out. You know, like Batman in the second half of The Dark Knight Rises. But he and the rest of his teammates were pretty horrible on the pitch. He played every minute of the group stage, 0 assists, 0 goals, and Denmark only scored once. Lads, I have seen Eriksen stand up when Denmark really needed him. Like belting a hat-trick in Dublin in a World Cup playoff 5 years ago. Yeah, that was a barrel of laughs. But here, in a must-win match against Australia, Christian Eriksen was instead dominated by Aaron Moy, Newcastle Fabian Schär. Surprisingly, despite Newcastle being 3rd in the Premier League, they don't really have too many World Cup players to choose from. I suppose Bruno Guimaraes was incredibly underused for Brazil, but the worst performances, yes, Kieran Trippier looked pretty shaky against the USA. But no, Fabian Schär was on the bench for the first 2 World Cup matches for Switzerland, where they only conceded once without him in the team, and then he takes his place for the game against Serbia and was dominated by Alexander Mitrovic in a squeaky 3-2 win for the Swiss. And then he played the first half of the last 16 match against Portugal and went off injured with his team already 2-0 down and crashing out. To be fair, I mean, it would get a lot worse without him on the pitch in the second half, but I'm sorry, Schär played 1.5 games and his team conceded 4 goals in just 2 hours of football. Not great, Schär. Nottingham Forest, Wayne Hennessy. You don't get much worse than this. Wayne Hennessy, this guy with over 100 Wales caps, and he should never play for his country again. I mean, what did we expect? This is a guy who makes a living from having picnics on the bench. I mean, he's only played 3 Premier League games since 2019. But here, he destroyed Wales' World Cup by getting sent off in the second match against Iran. I mean, Wales were literally 3 minutes away from a clean sheet. And he chooses to drag down the striker? How on earth was he picked to start in Qatar? Southampton, Mohamed Salisu. Again, there's not much to choose from here. I'll just go with centre-back Mohamed Salisu, who, to be fair, played every minute for Ghana. And he did actually score in a 3-2 win over South Korea. Yeah, that's a nice little postcard moment to go in the fridge. But, I mean, he is a defender, and Ghana did concede 7 times in 3 games. Yeah, not great, Mo. Can I call him Mo? Tottenham Harry Kane. I don't care that Son Heung-min cried so many tears that you could fill a swimming pool. Nobody in that Tottenham dressing room had a worse World Cup than Harry Kane. This is bitter. And Kane said this was going to be the tournament where he was going to smash Wayne Rooney's England records, win another World Cup Golden Boot, and also lift the trophy by scoring a hat-trick in the final. You know, be the modern day Jeff Hurst. What actually happened was no goals in the group. Sure, a goal against Senegal in the last 16, and yeah, he did score a penalty against France. But he also missed a penalty against France and went out in the quarter-final. That was surely the worst moment of his entire life. I mean, it wasn't even on target. I'm sorry, but this tournament, for Kane, a self-inflicted disaster. West Ham, Thilo Kehrer. Okay, this was a stunning World Cup for one West Ham defender, but a pretty rotten nightmare for another. Thilo Kehrer probably hoped to be Germany's starting right back at this tournament, and he did play 70 minutes at right back against Spain, but that was it. He was just a hopeless cheerleader stuck on the bench for the other 2 games as Germany went out in the group. Wolves, Ruben Neves. Not a great tournament. Listen, Ruben Neves was okay. He played every match for Portugal, but was substituted 4 times. I mean, he played an hour in a defeat to South Korea. And in the one game where he didn't start, the team suddenly clicked and scored 6. And inexplicably, instead of Fernando Santos just keeping the same team that beat Switzerland, Ruben Neves started against Morocco in the quarter-final and was so underwhelming he was dragged off after 51 minutes as Portugal lost. Yeah, it's not been great, Ruben. That's what do you think? Let me know in the comment section below. Who do you think was your club's worst World Cup performer? Let me know. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe. As always, I'll talk to you in a while.